we have May calling in today, CEO of HashPack. And I've got a couple more news items to talk about. But what I want to do is I kind of want to steer it into this conversation. And I think that I don't think that I've had May on the show before or ever. So this is really cool. So we've got May joining. May, I'm going to bring you up. And it is very, very good to have you on the show. And like I said, I can't recall if I've had you on the show, but welcome. And how's everything going in HashPack land?
Yeah, HashPack's great. Yeah, I've never been on the show before. I've seen you do it. I didn't actually realize that you just had people hop up, and so reached out to you, and you said just hop in. So here I am. HashPack is great. We are so busy, and we have so many things going on at the same time. So yeah, lots to talk about.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's true. I switched the show from Twitter Spaces to like this new platform. And so I've been kind of learning like, how do I open up that door for folks to come in and figuring out those new systems. But yeah, if, just a reminder for everybody, you can, call the show hashgraph.news/call into the show. But I do think that like for a long time, people were using Twitter Spaces, and now this is kind of some new stuff everyone's getting used to. I noticed so many people doing video streams now. So it's pretty great. And when we look at one thing I was just talking about was, we've seen Saucer Swap. They announced that they're going to be listed in Gate.io July 12th. And I know that Grelf is working on that. And just out the gate, in this conversation that we've been seeing with, enterprise versus retail and opportunity cost in the ecosystem, if we really look at stuff, there's so much progress being made by the retail ecosystem. And a big topic has been the accessibility of not only HBAR, but all these other coins that we've been having. And maybe from your perspective, being a wallet and really seeing these activities, what impact do you think this is going to have on the ecosystem, kind of almost flipping this switch and having these HTS coins in tier one exchanges?
It's absolutely huge, right? If people don't see it, then they don't find out about it. They don't care about it. Even if someone was to show them HBAR, if they can't buy it in the place that they usually buy it, then what's going to happen is they're just going to be like, oh, that's cool. I guess I am never going to get it because I only go on Binance or something. That was one of the big things we wanted to do with Pack. And like, we're not the first token by any means, but we worked really hard to launch with two centralized exchanges on launch day, and then shortly thereafter added Gate. And we're so happy to see other projects getting success in the centralized exchanges and getting token listings. And I think that this is how we're building that flywheel, right? This is where we're getting the ball rolling. We're building momentum. We're saying, hey, look at all of the success that projects are having in the space. You can come in and invest in them, or you can come in and make your own project, and you have a track record of projects that you can follow through and be like, this is how I'm going to get onto MEXC. This is how I'm going to get onto BitGet. So yeah, it's really, really good. One of the projects that I really like that is kind of underplayed is C14, and how you can buy HTS tokens directly in HashPack or on their website for credit card. And that it doesn't have a lot of volume per se, like most people just buy HBAR, but the fact that you can do it and the fact that people are doing it is huge, because now people are going to get more into it, more used to it. And then this is where you can start really building utility for tokens when people can actually get them. So yeah, that's huge.
I love that. And on the topic too, like blazing a trail, removing barriers, because you're right. It's like once the first few can get past that threshold, it's going to be easier for others. Maybe just for the other projects out there that maybe have tokens and are the reality is that if you do a token on Hedera, you are limited to this ecosystem, and it can be a little small in some ways. And the dream is for all these projects to break out beyond that. And like you said,
Absolutely.
be more accessible. And so from your experience going through this process as kind of a trailblazer with the Pack token, to all the other projects out there that are trying to, execute on this type of thing, like, are there any like learnings or pitfalls or advice that you could kind of, highlight for some of those projects?
Absolutely. And actually, I say Pack is a trailblazer, but people like Sauce was listed on MEXC from the beginning too, and they've been out for what, 2 years now.
Right.
We're not the first HTS token. We're just trying to keep pushing things forward. And so our team actually really talked a lot with the Sausage Swap team. We modeled our tokenomics a lot after their model because it works so well. We talked a lot about the logistics and about the smart contracts and about how to get listed on exchanges. And there's so much information to figure out when you're launching a token, and you kind of if you try to do it all yourself and like just read up on it, you're going to miss things. I think it's just that complicated of a process. So the thing that I will tell people if they're coming into the ecosystem is join our communities, join our builders, and ask. Make friends with SaucerSwap, make friends with HashPack, make friends with Headstarter, who also has a history of launching
Right.
tokens, right? And are helping Bonzo with their token launch as well. And also, I believe their centralized exchange listings. And this is really important that we have this community of people who are experienced, who are helping the community, who want to help the community. Go reach out and become part of that community.
100%. I think that's the key, is like what it really boils down to is that, like, one thing I was talking about before you popped on is like the thing that I consistently hear, despite people being like, oh, sentiment's low or whatever, is that people will compare the Hedera ecosystem to others and say like the knowledge here, the stickiness, the loyalty, and the passion is just so strong that you're right. It's like sometimes the answer to most things in this ecosystem is like just reach out to people, and together you can kind of be a little stronger with that. And it kind of ties into, what kind of I think has been on people's minds right now with this, with the conversations we've all been seeing. You put out a great post, but almost like this push and pull, right, between enterprise and retail, and what's more important, and do we go for this or do we go for that? And in my mind, it's actually been really cool to see these projects and kind of the retail ecosystem on Hedera coming together a little bit and really kind of finding that page to get on. And I was really curious, from your perspective, and you have so many touch points with people throughout the ecosystem. Obviously, the last month has been, energetic in the Hedera ecosystem. And kind of from your perspective, after really seeing so many of these things play out, and kind of where we are now and looking forward to the second half of the year, I'm really curious to kind of hear like, where your head is at, what you're observing, the kind of things that you're trying to impress upon people, and some of that direction that we're finding. I'm curious to see where your head is at.
Yeah, I definitely saw the drama coming beforehand. It actually, if you've been in the space, it's actually been boiling under the surface for quite a while, because there's a lot of things, just like in any ecosystem, where there's things that you wish that were different and you want to change. And I've been in chats with ecosystem leaders and HBAR Foundation and Hedera, and I try to bring up topics that I think are relevant or important. A big one that happened earlier this year / late last year was talking with the foundation about mirror nodes and how important they are to support them, because in 2023, I believe, yeah, LedgerWorks was our mirror node for HashPack, and they left the ecosystem. And then Archaea came in, and that Archaea team was great, and we worked really well with them. But I said to the foundation, we need infrastructure here, and having a team that we rely on leave the ecosystem is no good. And if Archaea leaves as well, like one day, and we replace it with someone else, we're just losing information. So how do we keep that sticky? How do we keep people in? And now I think we have Validation Cloud, which came in December, and they're excellent. Actually, we're very, very happy with them. We have is it Hgraph that we're using now as our backup?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And Archaea is sort of coming in, but it was a business decision for us to move to Validation Cloud. But we still have a really great relationship with Archaea and the BCW team. But basically, there were issues that I thought were happening around the mirror nodes, and so I brought that up. And that's just one example. But the drama that happened last month or over the last month is another one that kind of people have been sort of aware of, and then there was just one catalyst that kind of dropped it into the community conscious, and everybody got up in arms and angry, and just said, well, but we want to know what's going on. We want to have some say in how this ecosystem runs. We want to be heard, right? And I think that that was really the gist of it, is that there are people in the community who feel like they aren't being listened to, and that is a terrible, terrible thing to feel like when you're here participating, building, and you feel like the people at the top are not listening. Um, and I'm not going to comment on really the validity of it, because the validity of those of the arguments and the discussion points isn't what matters to me. That what matters is how people feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
How we as a community feel about our connection to Hedera and Swirlds, and how we can make it better. And I think that after all of this has blown over, and it's still kind of, people are still upset, people are still talking about it, but there's no longer that kind of anger and rage that was just directed at everyone. People are now sitting back and saying, okay, there is a problem, but how do we fix it? Who are the people that we can talk to that are listening? And what are the steps that we can do to make a meaningful change in the ecosystem, so that when things kick off, we're going to be there, we're going to be doing great, because we don't want to just sit around and complain about why things are bad all day. We want to like make changes so that things are good and that we're happy, and that's really what we want at the end of the day. So I think that this kind of loosening, the breaking of the seal and letting all the pressure out,
Yes.
was inevitable. But I think now that people have cooled off, we can now take steps into saying, okay, let's keep up the pressure, but let's do it in a measured way, a professional way. Let's show the importance of what we're talking about to the leaders of this ecosystem. And we are. And let's just move forward and make things better, right? And I think that that's where we're at right now.
100%. If, in my mind, something that always comes to my mind is like, if I hear the like words chicken and egg again, I'm going to go nuts, because at some point you just have to do it. And to your point, with mirror nodes and I work at Hgraph, which is a mirror node provider. And the key thing with any part of this ecosystem is there's a direct correlation between like attention and the amount of support it receives. And I think that that's where I don't know if the Hedera community realizes how powerful they are, right? If you can really demonstrate the value of things for people and get that attention, I really think that this community, when it finds that focus, can really move the needle in ways that I don't even think they understand. And just that for me is the most exciting thing, because I think that from the noise, we can find this signal. Like there is so much energy in what's been happening, and starting to see that bit of focus is really amazing. And then even pulling back a bit, like we have seen recently.
It happens everywhere.
It happens. This is just an industry thing. Like, we see these headlines, Polkadot with the, the controversy of the marketing spend, and we've seen tweets from all these people and everything. So there are these issues across other networks. And I think that, really it's about the original ethos of Hedera of like, what can we do to be the best that we can be? And I think that what that requires is, Hedera, the governing council, really leveraging fully the resources that they have. And like I was saying, one of the most underutilized resources that they have is this community.
Sure.
And it's been really great to see folks starting to break through. Like I know that, Rob Allen, who does the Shark Bites bits, it's great to see breaking through that way, where we've got a governing council member reaching out to the community. But then he also talked about members of the Hashgraph DeFi Alliance going to present at the governing council and sharing the sentiment that the governing council was kind of surprised or, oh, wow, what's going on? So we're starting to see those things happen. And I think that for a lot of people, the opinion is, it's too late, or it's this or that. But from your stance, when we talk about being bullish on Hedera or anything like that, from the bullish or bearish needle, I think you kind of share my sentiment of like, I'm pretty excited about what's ahead.
I'm very optimistic. I think that we have a really great momentum building up this summer. The overall like sentiment across Web3 is just down. That's just how it is. The
Yeah.
economy is down. Everybody is bearish. Money is expensive, so you can't invest it in risky things like crypto, and so everybody is just down. But sentiment can flip on a dime. It's crazy. So that's what we're waiting for, or that's what we're not waiting for, but that's what we're building for, right? And I think that as a community, like the things that are going to move the needle, as it were, and get people interested and start getting adoption of Hedera, which I hate using that word because it's so
Yeah.
cliche, but is just spreading the word of the things that are exciting on the network, things that you are super happy about, things that that you're engaged in, because that's what drives people to come in, is that energy and that excitement, you know. um, the karate combat advertising that we get from just like being in the pit with our
Yeah.
logo, and my match in karate combat, which spawned a ton of memes,
Yeah.
has brought so many people into Hedera that never knew about Hedera before, and they're karate combat fans, or they saw that karate combat is related to crypto, and then they're like, wait, but it's connected to Hedera, and now
Yeah.
they're in our community and they're learning about us, and they're getting excited. That's going to be way more effective than if somebody comes into the ecosystem and hears that marketing spend has gone through the roof and hasn't produced results, and we're so mad at these people and these guys are scammers and stuff.
Right.
Those things exist for sure, but let's put the spotlight on the things that matters, right? Why would you give your podium to somebody who's just going to trash talk when you could give the podium to people who are actually doing good things and building and being excited? And you know what, you're going to feel better as a community member at the end of the day if you can just hang out with people who are like that, right? And so that's really what I'm trying to impress on people. That's really the energy that I try to push in the community. Here's this project that I just heard of on Twitter. Let's retweet it. Let's talk to the person. Let's see what they're up to. Oh, you're just doing like an art project, but you're making every single one of your NFTs unique instead of doing the whole traits thing because you want
Yeah.
to tell a story. Fantastic. That's like, is it going to make a ton of money? No, but that creator doesn't want to make a ton of money, but they're just enjoying themselves. That's great, right? And then you have our 3 lending protocols that are coming in
Yeah.
really fast at the same time,
Yeah.
right? Bonzo Serio and H Liquidity, and it's like, how can you not see that there's a momentum of building on Hedera, people coming in, people getting excited, and also just as another note, people will build where they see things that they relate to. So like you're not going to come into the Hedera ecosystem and be like, I'm just going to make this random thing that nobody's ever made. You're going to look at Karate Combat and you're going to say, they built a really cool voting and community mechanism and a way of making it really easy to onboard into the ecosystem. I need to copy that. I need to do that. You know, Pixfy launched last week with their cross-chain INO, not INO, but founders token, I
Yeah.
think,
Founders token.
purchases, and you could buy with your you could buy a Polygon NFT, a Solana NFT, an Ethereum NFT, and a Hedera NFT, and you could buy it with any of those L1 uh, tokens
Yeah.
on their platform, and it just works. And it's like, it was seamless. It was really good. So I went and I bought a few of them with HBAR, because HBAR is just a lot easier,
Yeah.
right? And Pixfy is actually built on Hedera because the minting fees are just so much cheaper here and easier to use. And one day they're going to allow you to export your NFTs into a non-custodial wallet. And if you want to export from Pixfy into HashPack, then it's going to be super cheap. And if you want to export from Pixfy into MetaMask on Ethereum, you're going to have to pay that gas cost. So, you know, these kind of things are just really exciting to see people innovating and bringing new features into the network. And we need to get excited about that.
100%. Like, I think that you can all, like, what you're getting at too is almost flipping it a little bit, where we see the criticism towards Hedera and these organizations from the community saying you need to pay more attention to what's happening. You need to access the projects that are generating revenue from the network, right? Enterprise isn't really generating a ton of revenue.
Sure.
You need to focus on what's happening right now. But if we flip that, we kind of go, well, what if we do those things, right?
Of course.
What if we could encourage more folks that are just holding HBAR to dive into this ecosystem? What if we were more vocal about and knowledgeable about all the things happening? And I'm just as guilty with this show. There was the first 100 episodes of this show, there wasn't an episode where I wasn't like looking at some PR Newswire article
Right.
that everyone else was looking at.
Yeah.
And I think that many of the criticisms that I will and others will levy at these organizations, you also have to remember that, we do mimic a lot of the behavior. We do look for leadership. We look to Manson, Lehman and stuff, but at a certain point you have to start breaking the cycles because the industry changes, right?
You have to be the leader.
Exactly. And I think that that's really how I'm trying to look at it, is like, can I demonstrate the behavior I want to see?
Yes.
And if we're going to talk about some vacuum of leadership and waiting for change, it's like the reality might be that the community is getting more and more leadership.
We're the captain now. Look at, we're the captain now.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. And it's exciting because that's the process of decentralization. I'm always a big believer that with these networks, the people that utilize it the most will come to control it, whether it's on chain or just sentiment or whatever it is. But we're starting to see this community really starting to get more control. And I think that being responsible and staying focused on the substance and kind of taking those core values and applying it to the retail space, I'm seeing some really good things happen.
And the thing is, like, we kind of try to, or we kind of have this idea that enterprise versus retail is this big divide. And that maybe that's a sentiment that the community feels, is that Hedera is enterprise focused and they're not retail focused, and all of their resources are going into enterprise. And the thing that I've learned, and this is talking to people from all over, even inside of Swirls, is that enterprise is actually just the same as retail in terms of how they adopt technology, except that they're just much slower,
Right.
far, far slower. But if they see cool things being built on the network, if they see adoption and users on the network, they are more likely to build on us, just like any retail project is more likely to build on us, right? If somebody makes a coffee based startup where they're selling coffee online for HBAR, right? And you can stake that coffee coin. I'm talking about a specific project actually called Kona, because that guy is great and he's just doing it out of his love for Hedera. But he sells coffee and he roasts it in Hawaii, and he is like, I just put an order into him and I get coffee from Hawaii, and it's fantastic. And he's in the HBAR community, and someone can look at that project and say like, well, okay, here's a model of how I can sell my real world asset and also do something in the token space that is just like actually very simple. And then an enterprise comes in and says, okay, well, then here's this other retail project that has integrated with WordPress. And now you can just like have a store online that you can buy using HTS tokens. And you don't have to worry about whatever random things, right? How can we do that? Or points, the point system that Patches made with HTS 20, I'm looking into that now too. That takes away the risk of all of the speculation and stuff, because there's no token behind it, and that's very attractive to legal sensitive enterprise teams. These are all retail things that show what you can do on the network. And guess what? Enterprise has retail users too, right? They touch retail. It's not just people in a server scanning barcodes all day in an enterprise format, right? You've got Starbucks, you've got Nike, you've got NBA, Top Shot, that are all doing retail facing apps, and those are enterprise projects, right? Those are enterprise companies that are looking into Web3. And how do you attract them onto your network? You attract them by having retail activity. No one's going to build on Hedera if they don't see that anybody's using it. Like, why would you? It doesn't make any sense, right? So enterprise and retail, actually quite similar. The players are different. The needs are different because they think much larger and they're much slower. They're much conservative, but you're going to attract somebody in the enterprise space by welcoming them into the community, by being excited, by showing them this is so cool. And then they can go back to their teams and disseminate that into their companies instead of, oh, and here's just another platform XYZ that does this for you, except it's a little bit more complicated and more expensive because it's not Web2, right? So yeah, we're definitely on a good track here, and just pushing this vibe of innovation and excitement and building, I think is really the best thing as a community that we can do.
100%. And I think you hit on something really important where I think, the biggest myth in this ecosystem right now is it's this choice between enterprise and retail. And I was on a Spaces a while ago, just listening into Spaces that Charles, the president of Hedera, was on. And he was asked the question, what are we going to see first in Hedera, retail adoption or enterprise adoption? And this is recorded Spaces, you can go and listen to it and find out. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but he said something to the effect of, retail is required to get enterprise, right?
Yeah.
And he really explained that in his history. And I mean, you mentioned a few, like Nike and a few places that I think he actually was at. So he understands, I think, both ends. And what he's saying is like how this works is it is these small startups, these small projects, retail that blazes the trail.
Absolutely.
And those companies, get acquired by enterprises along the way, gobble them up along the way.
Yes.
And very interestingly too, a trend that I'm noticing now that generally happens in these valleys of this industry is there's a new, I'll call it project, it's called TokenVest, that actually is Scott Thiel's new project. And Scott Thiel was at DLA Piper, and Ian Putter has left Standard Bank and has joined TokenVest. So there also is this like inverse effect that we see commonly in the technology industry of people leaving established companies to start and form startups to enter that front of the pack.
Absolutely.
And many times getting reacquired by their own company. We saw this with Steve Jobs and different things. So there's these movements happening.
Well, because if you're in an enterprise team and you're pushing the company strategy, you don't have that agency usually to do the things that are cool. You have, and you know what, when you're in an enterprise, you have clients who are like, we need this token product and nobody's building it. Can you build it? And that person goes to the enterprise and they said, well, we've got clients that want this product. Can we do it? And they're like, we don't have that sort of thing on our roadmap. We can't do it. But if you spin out and you launch your own thing, we'll support you. Right? It might not be in an official capacity, but they'll provide the help because they're, enterprise people are just people, right? They're just part of the team. They might not be able to help you as a company, but they could help you personally. They could get you set up with the right contacts, and you start your company, and now you're out the door with some developers and maybe some money because you get some seed capital. And now you're doing TokenVest with your buddies from your enterprise job, but you're in a startup, right? And this is good. This is how, like, they're coming from a high friction environment and they're moving into low friction where they can build. And that's what a startup. That's the strength of a startup, is you're not buried by bureaucracy and legal and all of this kind of stuff. You don't have to worry about, like, if the bigger that HashPack gets, the more that we have to think about, well, if we make a mistake on the legal side, we are now risking billions of dollars of funds. When we were at 6 months into the thing and we were just selling, not selling, but doing a wallet for friends, the most that people could lose was in like a few 10,000s, 100,000s. And at the time that was huge. But you come in and everybody understands that they're going to take a risk, and you kind of know, because it's a small community, that if it does happen, at least you did your best and people understand that. But as we move up, it gets slower and slower to make these big changes. We have to make a lot more decisions based on the potential risk, and that slows us down. And so you multiply that by 100 to an enterprise that is one of the Fortune 500s, and no wonder they can't move quickly, because if something screws up on the token side, that could have rippling effects across the whole organization. So startup, and then as a community, make sure you support them, right?
Yes.
Hey, you were at this GC, that's fantastic. And you're doing this now. Let's learn about you. Let's get you into the community. Let's invite you into Discord and Twitter Spaces. Let's get excited about your project and
Yeah.
help you out, right? That's what the energy that we should see, because you know what? Then the next enterprise guy who has an idea might just come and join our community too.
I love that. And I think you hit on something really important where, you know, the fact is we're all just people, and being in business, it's like generally if you're in a risky industry, you want to work with people that you know. And you want to go into areas that you know. Everyone is really trying to mitigate that risk. And I think that's like when we look at the question that's commonly raised in Hedera, which is like, well, why is Starbucks building on Solana, or why is this project doing this on Ethereum?
Yeah.
It's really what it comes down to is the people steering the ship at these enterprises, when they want to push forward one of these initiatives and they need to figure out what network to build on.
Yeah.
They're going to build on the network that the Web3 guy in the CTO's office recommends, or they're going to build on the network that the board is invested in or whatever.
Sure.
And that is kind of like the secret sauce here is, what can we do to connect with those people, right?
We actually are. I would say, like, so many times we've heard that there are projects that are in big companies that have those decision makers that are really excited about Hedera, really excited about Hedera, and they're going to their teams and they're saying, "Hey, we need to build on this network, not Polygon, not Solana or whatever, because Hedera is where it's at." And then the board or their boss or whatever that they report to are like, "Okay, but what the heck is Hedera? I don't know about this. Do your research, give me a presentation, and get back to me." And in the meantime, we've got like 3 other people over there that are familiar with Solana or whatever, and you know they've got more users and more money. So doesn't that make more sense? And the guy's like, "But Hedera," and they keeps pushing it, right? I've seen this so many times, and sometimes the Hedera guy actually gets some traction, and they start trying to build, and that's where you see some of the bigger projects that have been in the background that people are excited about. They come out of that kind of enthusiasm. So it's not that we don't have it; we have it. It happens everywhere, right? So, you know, one day maybe we do land on Nike or an Adidas or something like that, right? There are people who are like just in the marketing side that have worked with these giant brands, and it's just a matter of when do the roads meet up, and we can push something for that brand in the Web3 space and recommend Hedera, and they'll go for it, right? The potential is there.
Oh, 100%. And that's a great point is I like, you know, I think it's clear that stuff is happening, and where my brain goes is like, how can we make more of that happen? And I think that's where the loop comes together of what we're talking about today is highlighting these things and getting that access, getting these HTS listings and growing that visibility and growing that footprint. That's what makes it easier for those tastemakers and advocates inside of those enterprises to say, look at this, like, look at all this stuff happening. And I think that that's really what we can make happen is what can we do to connect with those tastemakers, embrace this community, and then again, give them that firepower to, you know, pack their presentation for their boss and say, look at all of this incredible stuff. And you're right. We're on track for that. And I think that that's really when we loop back into this conversation about opportunity cost. It's like, you've done such a great job of highlighting the opportunity right there. And then the question comes back onto Hedera and the governing council and organizations to go, what can we do to supercharge this? What can we do to get this ecosystem, as Rob Allen would say, fit for purpose? And what is the purpose? And I think that now that we're really drilling things down, that's, I think, where you and I get that kind of really optimistic sense from is like, okay, now we're, as the kids say, cooking, you know what I mean? Like now we got some stuff going on. And maybe what I would say is, you know, from a project perspective, you know, you as the CEO of HashPack, and thinking about trends, something I often bring up in the conversations around like, we need change, is I try to remind people that, you know, last summer, the governing council put out a committee to find a new president, right? And Charles Atkins was brought on. And as you've highlighted, you know, there's a lot of faith being put in Charles. And I think that there's a lot of positivity. And I think it's totally reasonable for a year to go by of trying to figure out what the new strategy looks like and kind of put something in place. And
Oh,
the
he's been
signals,
busy.
right? Yeah, and and I think psychologically and all the signals we've been receiving is, and people have said this either on the governing council or in projects, is like this next 6 months for Hedera really is the make or break time. And I feel
Sure.
pretty optimistic. And from your perspective, I would maybe say, as someone deeply embedded in the ecosystem, you know, through these next 6 months, what do you kind of see happening? Like, what do you what do you feel is going to get us there? What do you like? Do you feel really really confident in what this new plan could look like? And do you really, how much, this is the other question, is as we push more towards aligning with retail, do you think there's going to be backlash from certain HBAR holders of like, no, 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 we don't want retail, almost like these kind of anti-retail HBAR holders,
I think let's do the last one because that's easy first.
Yeah.
Um, you're always going to have backlash. People are passionate and they have ideas of how things are supposed to be, and they have things that they like and they have things they don't like. So I think just knowing that there's going to be different voices and just saying like everybody's opinion is valid, even if I don't agree with it, but at least I'm going to listen and I'm going to then go and do my thing. Like there's no need to kind of get upset about people and argue with them on their viewpoint when you could just be focusing on your thing. And those guys who are focused on their HBAR holdings and stuff, and that's how they want to, that's where they think success is going to be, they can go off on that path. And people who are doing the retail side, they can go off, or the DeFi side, they can go off on that path, right? You don't need to waste your energy on things that you can't change. And I think that this is also my answer to the first part of that question, which is, okay, so Charles is here and we have a lot of faith in him to do what we need on the Hedera side and on the Swirl side and on the GC side. And that is a world that we as community have never been a part of in the history of Hedera. And you know what? It might not even be important to be a part of it as long as the leadership is good, right? Like nobody cares about the leaders if they're doing what you need to do.
Right.
But and like there are lots of positive things that we can do to change things, like open up dialogues, get in conversations, get the UGC more involved or more aware of what's going on in retail. But that's not something that we can change. And so the only thing that I can do with Charles is, talk to him every so often when I can, or tweet at him with something positive or something that I think he should know. Not tweet at him saying, why haven't you gotten results?
Right.
Because like, is that really gonna ever help? Or like you said you were working on this 3 months ago and we haven't heard anything. Well, you know what? Probably because he's still working on it.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna, like, pointing that out to somebody why you haven't done your job isn't really going to help, and it's going to cause a little bit of unhappiness, and you don't really have, as a community member looking in, you don't really have the optics of what's happening. So instead of holding people accountable like that, hold them accountable by trusting that they're going to do what they can, but giving them the information so that they can perform their job. And this is something that we as a community have agency over. We have the ability to start talking about the things that are important to us, the things that we think are good, the things that we think are excited about. And yes, there's also things that we're critical about that we should also bring up, but bring it up in a constructive way. Absolutely. And then as we move forward into the next 6 months, you say it's make or break. I think that every 6 months is kind of a make or break, like you gotta, like, we're a startup culture, we're Web3 culture, we're leading edge tech. We can't sit around and twiddle our fingers. We have to move, we have to build. And if you don't, you end up just petering out and becoming a bystander. So we have to move. We have to do things as an ecosystem, and I've never felt stronger about that, I guess. So maybe the next 6 months are make or break. Certainly we want to hit this next bull market whenever it hits, though we'd have no control over it. So if we have no control over it, there's no point in getting upset about it, in my opinion. So what can we change? What do we have control over? We have control over our sentiment, our mood. We have control over how we present ourselves to the outside world. We have control over the projects that we're building and the projects that we're supporting. And we have control over our relations with ourselves as a community, and leaning on each other, working together, collaborating, and just making that sure that everybody is moving together in the same direction. I think that the more that we can do to unite the community, to get people involved and like use their passions and, you know, engage with people, I think the stronger our community will be, and we will outpace other L1s for sure, because we've got a really solid base here. So, you know, as a community member, if you're building, then just build the best thing that you can and get people excited about what you're building. And if you are not a builder and you're just here because you love the community, you love Hedera, find things that you're excited about and just spread that, and then find friends who you want to talk to about it, and, you know, make a little community yourself and talk to people about that. And like, I think it's going to be much more rewarding than raging on Twitter about the latest scandal, you know, if you take that approach as a community member. So
Yeah, absolutely. And you really raised a good point about, you know, startup mentality, startup culture, and, you know, Hedera really being framed as the 100-year company. And you kind of go, what if the goal was to be the 6-month company? You know, what
yeah,
if the goal was to really thrive and take advantage of everything we have right now, not maybe think so much in hypothetical terms or where we will be one day, or a notion of we will have some kind of special path or special secret sauce that will allow us to avoid all the pitfalls every other network has experienced on their way to the top 5. You know, I think that really it's about just understanding that attitudes change, you know, the knowledge changes, and the HBAR I was, you know, years ago, it's very different to the HBAR I am now. And it's just being willing to change and say like,
sure.
that wasn't the right way to do things. There's a new way to do things.
Yeah.
I love that aspect of it, that startup culture, really Hedera embracing the fact that in reality, they are just a small startup crypto project in beta. And that's actually really cool. And there's a ton of advantages that come with that versus being some kind of behemoth.
Yep. And I mean, I think that the idea of 100-year company doesn't conflict with that,
Sure.
because we are landing enterprise deals. We are addressing real problems that enterprise needs. Not we as in the retail community, we're not doing that, but Hedera is definitely building out tools and relationships that are helping out with these logistics companies and these sustainability companies and all of this. Like, they're that let us build those tools that they need. But that is slow in coming, right? And that's going to take a long time. But when that comes, it's going to be fantastic for everybody. And then you'll be like, well, now there's Hedera Retail and Hedera Enterprise. There's it's not just a niche community anymore. It's a backbone of the internet, of a part of the internet, right? And how do you get there? You get there by having that vision and then pushing towards it. And on our side, that vision is the retail side.
Absolutely. May, this has just been great chatting with you. And I think, you know, I really hope a lot of people kind of take this message, because I think that, you know, there's been, like, again, there's been a lot of noise, there's been a down sentiment, but when you actually talk with people like May, right, that are, you know, running these major projects in this ecosystem, these major retail projects, it's a bit of a different story. And there is a lot of optimism, and there is a lot of excitement and hope for the future. And that's really what this is all about. That's why I love this show, is that, you know, as I go throughout my week and I'm reading the feed, and I get sadder and sadder, and then I start, you know, ship hosting on the weekend. You connect with people and you have a conversation, you go, hey, wait a minute. Things aren't all bad. And that's really what this is about. I think this is a time where we really have to come together. We got to work together, and we gotta really, you know, appreciate the fact that although there needs to be more focus on retail, I mean, Hedera's kind of got enterprise on lock in a lot of ways. And that's a really cool thing to know. And yes, it's going to take time. Yes, we've got to be patient. Yes, it might be years until we see that adoption, but a solid foundation is there. And clearly there's a desire for change. There is change happening. And now's the not the time for waiting. Now's the time to go, okay, let's just do more. It's not about choosing one or the other. It's like, let's just do more. We're
Yeah,
capable of more, you know?
do the things that we can. And also, if your feed is full of sad things, maybe you should start blocking some things or muting or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you ain't got no time for that, you know? Focus on the things that are positive and going in the direction that you want to do, right?
100%, 100%. No, that's a great point. And I think unfortunately that was the case for a lot of people. And when I say scrolling through a feed, I mean just scrolling through my own personal tweets.
Right, right. Oh, your feed. Oh, so maybe you got to block yourself.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's the solution. I got to block
yeah.
myself on
Sorry
Twitter.
to say that.
Oh man. Okay. I got to do that when I'm done the show. But no, seriously, May, like I really appreciate you stopping by. I can't believe I haven't had you on the show yet, but
Yeah.
yeah, for anyone listening, I mean, that's really the message here is, things are actually pretty optimistic.
They are.
And I think that when we frame and when I see the framing of the next 6 months being make or break out there, I think the reality of what that means is people are energized
Yeah.
and the community feels as though they're in control, and there's a little bit of pressure on, but I think that's a good pressure.
And I will say, like, my team really wants to push this as well. And we are going to be taking a lot more of a we're going to try to be more active in the marketing space in Hedera, because this is something that my team doesn't actually have a lot of experience or panache for. But we recently, Monday, we announced, or Tuesday, we announced that we're teaming up with Genfinity, who've been doing a ton of podcasts in the space. And we're going to be doing more content. We're going to be reaching out to the community. This tweet here that I've posted here is our announcement tweet, but also we're going to be starting some HashPack spaces starting, I think, in 2 weeks from now. And it's going to be an open call to the community to come in and talk about your spaces. And the idea is that we're starting with, and it will change as we go on for what's effective or not. But the idea is that we want people to come in and show their platform that they're building, like give us a video walkthrough of it, or show the creator project that you're building, and talk about things, and basically just involve the community more, and let's build some more connections with each other. So if you have a project and you've got something that you want to show off, and yeah, just come and reach out, because we want to build this space and we want to lead by example. So that's just like my ending little
Love it.
comment there.
All hands on deck. I think that, it's that psychology of buy low, sell high. It's like, hey, now's the time to dive in. Now's the time to roll up your sleeves. The opportunity is here. And now's the time to get energized. It's the opportunity to really elevate so many people. And, I'm excited about that. I had King Solomon on the show. I think the first video episode that I did, and Genfinity is doing great stuff. So huge shout out to them. But May, very much appreciate it. You stopping by, and
Thank you.
looking forward to seeing you kind of do some more knockouts and karate combat soon.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I mean, that's the best marketing. Like just really putting stuff out there and putting the community out there. So
Yeah.
very much appreciate it. And thanks for stopping by the show.
All right. Thank you. See you.
Take care. Awesome stuff. It's so good to have projects stop by the show, and also to have May stop by the show. I think that, HashPack and May in particular are just, so connected to this ecosystem, and really kind of help onboard people and do some of that taste making. And this is true for, so many other projects. Like I was just on a spaces today with Pluto from HashPack, and then also like Kabila and Blade Wallet, and and then I have people stopping by the show, Bonzo Finance, and all this kind of stuff. And that's, I think, what really separates the top tier projects, right? I think that sense of it's not even just being humble. It's just having that higher calling of like, not only, I don't just want to grow my project. I want to, Lehman says this, the inventor of the hash graph is like growing the pie, right? Like, what can we do to create the garden in which to grow the future for all these things? And the harsh reality is that it takes everybody to do that. And the time to do that is right now. And, I think that through everything and through all the noise and all the energy, I really feel optimistic as well. And so I think that's really fantastic.